yesterday, Georgi talked a lot about the qualities and talents, and so we make we distinguish the inner core qualities, which are, love, stillness, innocence, and Georgi wrote an incredible, beautiful book about this. And basically, what she's pointing out is that you have a non-dual quality, and when there is a contraction on a non-dual quality, we get lost in the duality, which is kind of connected with this non-dual quality. Like, as an example, you have purity, and there is a beauty in it when you really look in the depth in it. Purity, when we lose the connection with our own inner purity, we fall into into the duality of shame and disgust. We get caught into this. So, of course, we don't like to shame. We don't like the feeling of shame. And often what we're caught in is this deep feeling of shame. So we try to throw away this feeling of shame outwards, so in order to be able to feel pure again. So, and we do this through disgusting other people. This is my father was a very good example of this. He had a lot of shame around sexuality. And then when we had this programs on television, it was new television, and we would watch television, and when there was a girl there, immediately he would kind of discuss this girl because she was too sexy, she was not right, she was asking for it, which is kind of, I think, very kind of rude, like that's how she, and basically it was the shame about his own feelings. So he lost the connection with purity in his own sexuality. And then you get this kind of behavior. You see also in a lot of religious movements, where especially there is a lot of repression of the women, of the freedom of women to express themselves as female, because that's disgusting, because it brings shame to the male side. In society you see it a lot. So the purity gets lost here. The connection with purity gets lost. So the amazing thing is, if we take one side and we go all the way, say we take shame and we go all the way in shame, and we allow ourselves to shame ourselves to the depth, then shame is so purifying. It's so hot. It's the hottest emotion we have. It's so incredibly purifying, that it burns away everything which is not really yours. If you just remember that you were ashamed, it's very exposing. It's like it brings you back to a layer of yourself which is more real as the pretense which is burnt away in the shame. You understand? Or the reality which is there, it's burnt. We can be very shameful as children when we tell a lie, because we pretend something which didn't happen. We're lying, and then you feel this shame, and it really burns away the lie. It's very difficult to you understand. So there is a purification in shame itself, if we allow it totally, fully.
And this is the case for all of the qualities, right?
Yeah.
Like, if we lose connection with the innocence,
yeah,
there's accusation.
So going with guilt all the way. One of the dualities is closer to home. It's more inner. The other is more projected outer.
Because there's always two, isn't there?
Yeah.
Quality.
Yeah.
One of them is always more pronounced. So it can be accusation, it can be guilt.
What happens if we go with accusation all the way? Then we start to accuse ourselves, and we get the pure split between the one that accuses and the one that is accused. And in the midst of that will be the sense of guilt and badness. Yeah. And we go all the way with that. With badness, then it's not separate anymore. We can feel it as like a shared field.
Ego is the one that is most pronounced.
Exactly.
In that
Also,
it's alchemic, really, isn't it? It's
Yes.
alchemy.
yeah, and if we accuse a little bit, but not totally. But if you really go with accusation all the way, you accuse a person totally, it becomes absurd. And immediately you can see the innocence shining through the accusation. You understand? If we go all the way, if we allow ourselves to go all the way, it will kind of bring us back to the source. If we go with guilt all the way, then at a certain moment, guilt will also bring us back to innocence, because it becomes unbelievable. We have to enlarge it. We have to go all the way. You recognize what I'm talking about? So again, innocence is a very, very beautiful, that it has this movement by itself. Often out of innocence, because we didn't know and we didn't meant to, we kind of, hurt other people. Sometimes we hurt ourselves. We hurt each other. This is part of life. We cannot help it. And then, the difference is that when we are caught in a structure of guilt, we cannot take the responsibility. It's impossible, because we are wrong forever. So we have to accuse. It's because of that. Why everybody or a lot of people are talking always when something happens. It's because of this. It's because of that. It's because of so they don't need to take in the guilt. But if it's because of, nothing is happening. If I kick Georgi and I said, yeah, it's because of the weather, nothing is happening. Nothing is changing. And she's not seen in her pain either. It's like, if the weather is not right, I get kicked. That's not a very safe position to be in. And I give maybe an extreme example, but it's not that extreme. The because of have nothing to do with the responsibility for your own behavior. You understand? So you could do it again when the same situation is coming, and the same situation is there all the time. And because of, it's because of society, it's because of this, it's because of that, it's because of Trump. Let's kill each other because of Trump.
What about the reverse, though, when you take responsibility for somebody else's behaviour, which can happen?
Let's go later to that. Let me first finish
Sure,
the story a little bit.
Yeah.
So if we do something from innocence, and there is not a contraction on innocence, and you do something, what automatically comes forward when another person is hurt is regret, which is something totally different from guilt. When I say I really regret hurting you, and that means that I am acknowledging your hurt. This is saying sorry, really saying sorry. I'm sorry that you are hurt. That's and this acknowledgement and taking responsibility that there is hurt and that you are part of this hurt, even if it's totally irrational. Even if it's not meant to, or the person is so sensitive, there's nothing you could do about it. Still, if you're in touch with your innocence, you can regret. You're able to say sorry, and that is that's a big difference in communication. So what we want is regret, because regret has a healing factor. Guilt doesn't help. So your question, could you ask it again?
Yes. Well, the incidents where you take responsibility for somebody else's behaviour.
Yeah.
Really fully, if you take on something that somebody else has done onto yourself.
Yeah. Like it's because of you.
Yes, exactly. That it's my responsibility for your behaviour.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I said kaki to you, you had to beat me up.
Yes. Something
No,
along those lines.
no. You hit me, and he takes full responsibility for you hitting me.
Yeah, he's right. It's because of him.
You're a mindless dildo that can't control himself, and Max
exactly.
has to kind of take care.
Yeah.
But I meant more. I mean, yeah, that's another scenario. But I did what you said, that if there is an interaction between people,
Yeah.
like you said, violent, whatever
Yeah.
it is, and you take responsibility for
But
that.
Bart
Yeah.
hits Georgie.
Yeah, yeah.
Says it's Georgie's fault for provoking.
Yeah.
That's
Which is also
normal.
right.
Georgie.
There's a lot of hitting Georgie going on here.
He started it.
Because of him.
It's because of me, because I've got hit me written on
Why
my
did
head.
you make us do it? Bart?
No. What you're talking about is what is called in psychology a guilt complex. And a guilt complex, that means that you kind of load yourself with guilt. And when you look into a guilt complex, you're the cause of everything. It's a form of grandiosity. So I don't want to go into the whole psychology, but it's a form of grandiosity. It is a deep wound in being able to be somebody. You understand, in a way, in the end. So by taking all the guilt upon yourself, you become somebody. You be okay. It's a deep wound on okayness. It's absolutely opposite of what it is really, how it looks like, but it's really kind of finding okayness by taking the whole load of all the guilt upon yourself. But there's something very grandiose in it as well.
Even if you feel that you can help the other person.
No, you help to kiss the devil's ass. What we say is helping the other person, and this is really important to understand. We help the other person not to get angry by walking on eggshells. So in this, you give the other person the impression that he's the total right to misbehave, to become angry, and to beat you up. You have to do your best, and if you don't do your best good enough, he has the right. You're affirming behavior which is really not right, and we do this a lot. Kissing the devil's ass. Affirming, patterns of behavior which are absolutely, totally destructive towards the world and towards the person himself. You understand, we have a responsibility there to put borders, to say this is not right.
Even as children, where a lot of this kind of stuff can happen, that's a lot more difficult.
A child will do this automatically. The learned behavior is to kiss the devil's ass. The learned behavior is mommy's telling you, be quiet, don't say that. A child will confront till it's learned not to confront. A child is coming purely from his heart, you understand? And out love of a person you confront. This is a natural movement. You say, this is not right, Daddy. You understand? This is because you care. You can say it in a lot of different ways, but you can show it. But he will not kiss the ass. You understand? That's learned behavior. You recognize what I'm talking about? So it's so common to do our best around people because otherwise people get upset. But the real gift is to give the person the total freedom to get upset and be there. Because the person is getting upset because there's an imbalance, there's a contraction somewhere. You understand? So the first message is it's very bad when you get upset. And the second message is you've got a right to get upset in a way that you project it all outwards. And that the person gets upset has nothing to do with the world around him. It's really to do with his own psychology.
They're very precise children. Like,
Yeah.
maintain that, so precise.
Yeah.
Like if I have an issue with my children, they end up like putting me in my place. Later I'll say, well done, you know, for shouting at me, by the way, you know, thank you, or whatever. And then, so there's, you know, Poppy's still doing it at 9, like the other day, and she's, Mummy, you're doing this because of this, that, and you learn so much about yourself. And you're like,
Mummy, why are you kissing the devil's ass?
And I'm like, oh, they're so, they just, like
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, my daughter will say,
Amazing.
sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, I thought you
yeah,
finished.
yeah, no, please.
My daughter will say, I mean, she'll have a meltdown, be triggered by something. And then she'll say, I'm so angry, I need to calm down. I still love you. And you're like, I don't love you right now. Maybe when you say this nicely, I love you. Which is wrong.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But it's what intelligence to feel it and
Yeah.
to also be in touch with love
Yeah, exactly.
and the awareness that calmness is actually better than, you know, that craziness.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really more free.
Freer than me in many ways in those moments.
Yeah.
Because of my sort of conditioning to do what you're saying, which is just very human, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very adult in a way.
Very adult. That's
Yes.
what we call adult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I just ask about, just going back to qualities really quickly, you know how you said that with the contraction,
Yeah.
there's one that's more pronounced,
Yeah.
okay? Is that the same with the qualities? I mean, is it possible for someone to have 5 qualities, 2 qualities,
All of them.
not 101 qualities?
You
Are they
have
always-
all of them, and they're just
Of
labels.
course, they all, because
But-
that's what we are, right?
But there are periods of time where we really can resource very easily certain qualities, and it's almost like something's happening and like, for example, the quality of stillness can come forward. We could spend maybe a decade just moving out of stillness, giving therapy out of stillness, resourcing stillness, and then suddenly that's like, in a way, incarnated, and it will move to the next thing, like to the quality of peace or care or maybe innocence or purity.
So some can
They're all
stay
available.
around.
It's all inherent to the consciousness. Just what comes forward is what's needed out of the consciousness. So in a way, the thing that's dictating what comes forward in terms of quality is the contraction itself. So if your contraction is of guilt, it's going to draw the innocence out of out of consciousness.
Yeah.
Or hatred will draw love. It's all about love. It's kind of screaming for reunion, the love inside the hatred with the love outside of it, the formless love. So it's very precise according to, and the formula, the diagnosis is always in the problem. That's where the need is.
Diagnosis is in the problem.
Our contractions contain their own
Yeah.
prescriptions.
Yes. They point back to the quality.
Exactly.
And the combination of qualities.
Yeah.
So a certain constellation can be around for a while, and then life events, you know, things happen, experiences happen, which unearth another quality.
Yes, exactly.
Some are frozen.
Yeah.
They're all there.
We'll go through maybe a whole spectrum, you know, for
Yes.
example, at the end of a process, a karmic process, then often you'll get this, you know that you're done when this sense of peace comes forward. It's almost like peace gives that closure, this blanket of peace can come forward. But it will have a stage of love, it will have a stage of a liberation of that quality as well. Okayness is often there, together with guilt and shame, the sense of being okay, unconditionally okay. That's often part of the healing of any contraction.
Yeah, but oddly, they, like I was saying to you the other night in our one-to-one, there can be an absolute, a fundamental okayness, which is totally illogical.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, there can be guilt.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And actually,
Yeah.
guilt is okay as well, but
Yeah.
it's fully felt
Yeah.
and it's fully explosive and
Yeah,
fully
exactly.
crappy. But actually, there's still this sort of deep okay. It makes no sense, but it really is.
It kind of makes total sense.
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
They
but
talk
not to
about
the mind.
surrender a lot to the inner.
Not to the
Yeah,
mind.
exactly. But there is this thing which is missed out of the non-duality circles, which is actually to really complete a healing, you have to become the contraction completely. You have to become that raging, frothing monster. You have to become that war criminal in your feeling. It's like the way out is through the contraction at a certain stage, and we're all there trying to be disentangled and surrender to the source, and wondering why not, when everything's pulling us into contraction, and it's pulling us into contraction because that's precisely what's needed at a certain moment. To have that rage fit, to fight all the way, to go to war for the peaceniks. Yeah.
But not necessarily to externalize that in
No,
a way that can be
it's all
destructive.
energetic.
Yes, because I think that's sometimes the misunderstanding or can result in
If it's repressed
sterling.
energetically, it will become physical.
Yes.
If we would refuse to feel that, to go all the way with our inner evil or our inner sense of rage, then at a certain stage it will explode on the world. Either us as the perpetrator or us as the victim receiving that rage. Because the need to evolve is stronger than anything else, and the physical is included. So,
No, it's absolutely okay.
Could I just ask one thing?
Yeah.
You at first you said about kissing the devil's ass and like the responsibility to put a border, and the next bit was like our gift to someone is give them the freedom to be upset.
Yeah.
So could you say about those two things together?
So we because we are, as human beings, very, very, very deeply wounded and really crazy. And this is a general state. And we call this being asleep, not being awake. You understand? So awakening is a little bit out of the craziness we were in. Just a little bit. You know. So we're crazy partly because of all the contractions, all the traumas which we are carrying. And we identify with the effect of the trauma. So we are not free. And when we are in a traumatic tunnel, and we are in traumatic tunnel a lot, and especially when something is touched. So most of us have trauma around anger. That means there's fear for anger, or we have a difficulty with anger. I just give an example. So somebody gets angry, and we immediately take it personal. This is a trauma innocence, trauma anger. It's several working together. We take it personal, and we're not seeing the other person at all anymore. So when we take it personal, you know, we have to say, not me, it's not my fault. Yeah. If there is also the guilt thing going on. Or we are so bad that the other person, we made such a mistake that the other person is angry with us. Or we move into, okay, this person is bad, he's hurting me. But we are not really seeing the other person. It becomes a monster. He's bad. He's, you know. And then later on, we see that the person is not that bad. And then we say, okay, we have to forgive him because, you know, he was just expressing himself like this. And it is not a real person. So we have to forgive him. And then, because then the whole person has to be good again. It's again a contraction. The person was always good, but is behaving bad. But we don't see where it's coming from. We are not able to see really, or heal really, or hear really the person, where it's coming from. Because we take it too personal. It comes in as if it's all about us. It's always all about us. Everything what happens in your life is about you. And it's really not about you. Everything what happens in your life is about your response. This is where the lesson is. How do I respond to this? Do you understand? And if we're able to look what everything what happens in your life is about your response, because there is our control. And I mean control in understanding where the response is coming from, and seeing where is the contraction, and be able to feel what is unbearable in the contraction itself. This is liberating us. But we identify ourselves with our response as if this is what we are, the effect of our response. You understand? And we don't want to be that. So if your response is, if somebody say kaki to you, that you get aggressive, you don't want to be aggressive. So who are we? We are very peaceful, but some people are really pissing us off because they're humiliating us. Because we've got a wound in humiliation. And we've got the fullest right. You understand? So kissing the devil's ass is if somebody gets, you say cocky, and somebody gets very aggressive, is saying, okay, you've got all the right to be aggressive. Okay, I will never say cocky to you again. And then, it's about you again. You understand? Because you have a fear that the other is aggressive, so you do your best that he will not be aggressive with you, and then the other one will give you the message that you're okay. It's not because of you that he becomes a monster. It was never because of you. This is the blindness that we are so focused, it's because of me. Guilt again. Nothing to do with you. You use the word kaki. What's kaki? It could be kika. Looks like kaki. That's already enough. Or cocoa. Also almost kaki. Which triggers it. So, if we're free, then we say kaki and the other person, and we don't say it to trigger the other person, it just happens, and since they're happening, the person gets angry, and you are aware that this is triggering something in the other person. And then we're able to listen, and we say, okay, I see that you get really upset, you're so angry right now, what's happening? And then the other person can talk, he can say, yeah, that's because of this and that and that and that and that and that, and the moment the person starts to talk, he calms down. But if we say it's not because of me, or you're right, or I shouldn't have said kaki, or it's because of you're not seeing the other person. We're only seeing ourselves and our own fear for the rage, for the anger, and we start to also, what I said before, coming into a pattern where you walk on eggs and try to overcome that the other person becomes a monster because it's your mistake. It's because of you. You are not careful enough. This is the attitude we have. That means that the other one has all the right, when somebody says kaki, to kill somebody. So the other person is not having to take any responsibility for this. Because we go with the because of. You understand? And there is a craziness in this. This is where we kind of affirm each other in bad behavior. We affirm each other from our own fear into something which is also destructive for the other person. Because, if you're in a relation with somebody who kind of, when you say kaki, hits you, and you don't say anything about it. So what is happening is that slowly you close your heart, trust gets lost. You cannot stay open, you cannot stay together. So the other person will feel more and more isolated, and especially in families, at least the family I came from, my father was an alcoholic, and he was absolutely, totally misbehaving. He had a very bad drink. And my mother and the children kind of, came together as a group against this bad person, this alcoholic. And it drove him into isolation. And his way to deal with isolation is drinking more. So part of it was our responsibility as a family in how we reacted to him, in driving him more deeply into his alcoholism by isolating him more. You understand? It's adding to it. The pain was unbearable of the deep traumatic loneliness in him. And a way not feeling this pain was to self-medicate, to drink. But then the medication was quite destructive for us around him. But it was a form of self-medication. And so we kind of, enlarged the isolation. It's karma. And this is how karma is working. And it's important to see the responsibility. So in the end, he was totally isolated and totally alcoholic. You understand? And this is where healing can start. Then you cannot drink away the isolation anymore. You understand? So you need to do something about it. You need to deal with the pain which is behind it. And he did. And we have helped him with that as well. This is the positive side. But there's also an entanglement in it, and it could be more easy with less suffering. You understand? But this is karma, that we get entangled in each other and we kind of, push each other deeply underwater till we cannot really breathe anymore and we are dying, and then kind of, you know, a process is starting of survival.
The reason I asked just quickly is like in my own process of seeing the workings, if you like,
Yeah.
is it thus far it just seems like, so say in my avoidance of conflict, for example,
Yeah.
I can start to see this thing of the configuration of a me,
Yeah.
like a construct. It's all about me. That's one level, but there seems another level of response which is more primal, like nervous system stuff, just like
Yeah.
motherfucker. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Great.
So like there's
Rage.
all different types of there's two lots of response like this. I can
Yeah.
bring awareness. There's that shape that's literally
Yeah.
making everything about me. But
Yeah.
then there's another level of response that is nervous system or something.
Yeah, it's not nervous
What,
system,
like
it's the physical
survival?
body, it's survival, it's pure instinct, it's rage. You motherfucker, never do this to me. And then
Safety,
this,
safety.
yeah, but if the mind is too much kind of in charge of the rage, and we have a fear of the rage to really show our strengths, because if we show our strengths, motherfucker, you never do this to me again. You know, you show your strengths. This is a very big strength. It will stop, and we all have these strengths in us. You understand? But how do we abuse these strengths often? By kind of, you know, totally shutting the other person off. We're in a rage and we shut the other person off and we never want to see him again. And he can drown. And at the same time we feel not good about that the person is drowning. And we cannot really leave him alone. So we need, and that's what Georgi brought forward as well, we need sometimes to really express one side of the polarity which is there.
But that same strength, Bart, is also the source of a perpetrator's power. Like if you're talking about rage.
A perpetrator is incredibly weak.
I mean in the sense of the core, the anger, you know, the want to destroy or to
So why do you want to destroy? Why do you want to destroy?
I think that's a very difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
But
So when do you want to destroy? When do you really want to hurt somebody? We all have a perpetrator inside ourselves. When do you want to destroy? When do you really want to hurt somebody?
probably when I'm at my most vulnerable, I would say.
When you cannot live with yourself.
Yes.
When it's really difficult to face yourself. And when you cannot live with yourself and you cannot take responsibility for it, you know, we feel a victim. We feel a victim of life, we feel a victim of society, we feel a victim of the other person, and then we started, because, you know, it adds to our own self-rejection. We cannot live with ourselves, and we become more violent, we become more a perpetrator. That's one of the backgrounds of becoming a perpetrator. There's other backgrounds as well, it's not the only one, but it's an important one to see. Because in this we all become perpetrators. We cannot live with ourselves, we get cruel to somebody else. And we all have moments that it's difficult to live with yourself. So there is different ways to deal with this. There's different ways to live with this. We can live with this by saying, okay, this will never happen to me. I will not do this. I don't want this. Or we can say, okay, you know, I've got a killer inside myself. And that's a responsibility. And this killer you can use in a lot of different ways. This killer is very good. very precise in telling where the border is when somebody gets abusive. And this is the place of the killer. You understand? It's very serious. You don't go over this border or you're dead. This is where the killer is in his place, and you don't need to use it. You understand? It's the energy. It's the energy which is available, and all these energies, all these dualities, all these energies are available. All these archetypes we have inside ourselves are available in as part of our whole expression. We can express through almost everything. And behind this whole expression is the non-dual qualities, which can shine through this expression. The difficulty is that we start to identify with the forms we express through. And the forms we express through are often ruled by the contractions which are there. But also by our talents. And we also have the difficulty sometimes to identify very strongly with our talents. You know, you can sing very beautiful, so you are the singer. You understand? And that's a contraction, becomes a contraction in it itself. I'm good in this, so I am that. This is what I have to be. And by identifying with it, you know, in this contraction, it's not about the singing anymore, it's about what other people, how other people are responding to your singing. And this is where we lose our freedom, because then we give others authority over this miracle which is happening through us. Singing. And we lose our freedom. We feel caught. You recognize what I'm talking about?
Oh yes, yeah.
I hear people doing that to their children all the time. It gives me a kind of little shootout.
Yeah, exactly.
Like spontaneously say, oh, he's so great at poetry. Maybe one day he'll be a writer. And I think, oh, you've monetized it already.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Don't.
Maybe he'll, be an accountant but just love poetry. That's also fine,
Yeah.
You've monetized it already.
I've got a friend who's got the Mr. Man mug in her kitchen. She's got Little Miss Happy, Mr. Clever, and something else for her 3 children. On the side.
It's already there.
Little Miss Scapegoat.
That's fine.
And hers. So, you know, and this is happening in every family. We have this division. He's this, she is that, and we feel all unfree in it. We are pushed in a role within the family, and this is what we have to be. There is no freedom in it. That's why we need to get kind of cut loose from our families, because we're more than this role. We're more as only this person. But then there's a family reunion, and you know, you freed yourself, you worked on yourself, and you behave in a different way, and everybody's like, come on! Back in your place.
I don't recognise you, Georgie.
Yeah.
You're doing the dishes. What happened?
No, you're doing the dishes with a smile.
Yeah, I'm avoiding everybody.
That's the right answer.
I know, because I don't know myself.
It's a huge paradox though, because so much, like, you know, good music or great works of art are born out of very clear identifications with things. So, you know, if you write a great song, it's because you're stuck in something for a bit, and that gives you the freedom to express. You know, it seems like all of our entertainment is, you know, born to some degree.
In the freeing of the identification, it happens the moment we can let go of the identification. If I ask you to write a song which will be liked by everybody, what will happen?
Oh yeah, I didn't mean it like that.
No.
Yeah, but like you know, if you're identified with a strong emotion like grief,
It's to do
something
with the
may come.
expression of the suffering, the sharing of
Yeah,
the
exactly.
purity of the experience of suffering with the world. At least in my taste of music. You know, Pink Floyd, Velvet Underground, it's all really
real.
taking the grim out of the emptiness, the grim, shitty, fucking, nasty, not knowing shit, pointlessness, and then giving it a musical form. And it's awesome, right? It's not identity, it's the explosion of identity and the agreement to share the suffering. So that's a contraction expanding into the field of beauty and harmony.
And
Unless you're thinking about different songs.
and
No.
basically, also that take Mozart. You know, I'm pretty sure that he really suffered under the shallowness of what was happening at courts, but that was his environment, and he was rebellious. You know,
And he was monetized.
and he was monetized. But still, you know, when you listen to his music, it is so kind of cynical in the background, in his shallowness. And this is, you know, this is happening through you. If you compose or you make music or you're playing or you're singing, even the song of somebody else, it's happening through you. At a certain moment, it happens through you. You become one with the song. You become one with the music. It's something which is happening. And this is what we're doing it for. When it's happening, you're composing for when it's just happening. When you become one with the composition, because this gives you wings. This gives you the feeling of freedom. It makes it worthwhile to make music. Not kind of, you know, to think, okay, you know, I have to do this note, I have to do that note, I have to do this. This is not where you're doing it for. You're doing it for when you become one with the instrument and you become one with the music, and the music is happening by itself. This is the joy. This is where you write for. And then the genius comes forward, which is a non-dual quality. And the genius comes forward inside the talent you're expressing. This could be writing. So, and when the writing is happening by itself, it starts to roll. You know, you don't need to think. Sentence after sentence after sentence is coming out. There is no plan, there's no agenda. It's just happening. This is, you know, when the writer becomes one with the writing, and then the genius is starting to move through you. It's not about being smart anymore or seeing as stupid. It's just pure genius coming forward in whatever you're doing. Whatever talent. So the talent is using the non-dual qualities which are inside. So if there is contractions on the non-dual qualities, you know, if we are deeply enough in the talent is able to heal this non-dual contractions. You understand? It's really helpful to find something to do what you feel is totally worthwhile to lose yourself in. If it's dancing, singing, bookkeeping, beating up children, whatever is your talent. No, I'm making a joke. We don't have a talent like that. Okay, so when you look into this, so there is something incredibly healing in using the talents. And the talents, you know, when we use them, what we do is unconditional. When we make music and we become the music, and the music is just moving through us, it's happening. There is no person. There is no identification.
There's the opposite of identity. The musician disappears and becomes the music.
The music.
The writer disappears and the writing is happening.
Yeah, the dancer disappears and dancing is happening. This is when we feel fully alive. This is what we're doing it for. This is what we want to see in an actor. The actor is not as the person anymore, but he becomes the acting. Then it's alive. You recognize what I'm talking about? This is inspiring for us.
It's often that the world pushes these amazing artists and art forms in whatever field of art
Yeah.
into the fringe, don't they? And it's alternative. It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
And the artists themselves are a bit wacky,
Yeah.
a bit unhinged, a bit sort of, you know,
Not adapted to
weird.
society.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it's like, we don't want to go there. It needs to sort of be pushed away, and let's get back to the mainstream, the manufactured, you know, sort of monetized stuff, plastic stuff.
Exactly.
And it's like, it's just so inauthentic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just hyped, isn't it? People just listen to it all day or watch it all day, and it's just so artificial. But it's where the comfort is, the false comfort.
Yeah.
False sense of unity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Conformity and unity.
Yeah. You know, real unity is only possible in all colors of Bennett, and that means that we are able to unconditional accept. No, I know it's horrible to say, to unconditional accept all the colors which are in another person. It's only through an unconditional attitude that real unity is possible. The moment we exclude something or replace a contraction on something, there is no unity possible anymore. There is no unity. It's a unity except this. You understand? That's not unity. Unity is all the way or not. So there's a deep surrender in unity. A surrender in the first place to yourself. It's really important to be quite unconditional to whatever form comes out of yourself. And in the second way, to whatever response there is from the world, or whatever is coming in from the world, from the universe. It's part of you. So there's a very deep trust needed for this. A trust in that it is okay. And it is okay. It's not always easy, it's not always without pain and without suffering, but it is okay. And it's very dry okay. It's not okay it's good or it's bad, because that's a polarity already. It's okay because it is what it is.
Okayness.
Exactly what it is, it is. And in what it is, there is a precision. And not always okay. In the form of good or bad, but okay in that it is what it is. With this precision. So, talents are really helpful. They're really, really, really helpful, kind of, to as teachers, for us, if we are allowing them to express as freely as possible, to move into this feeling of unity, in this feeling of oneness. Oneness, what is expressed when the musician becomes the music, then the next stage, which is sometimes happening, which is the biggest kind of bliss or ecstasy, is when you also become one with the listener. It's all one. The public, the musician, the music is all one. And there is this magical moment, I think you know, that this is happening. And that's what we're making music for. And this is the whole process of inner growth, in one moment, in one kind of circle. And that's why we do it again, till our nerve system is used to it. And then you become somebody who kind of, is totally free in this movement. And this is also a school. This is as much a school of enlightenment we're talking about as any other school. It's just life itself. So we are born and we're meant to express our talents. Our talents are, in a way, and that's life, our teacher. You recognize what I'm talking about? It's every stage of inner growth, the whole process of inner growth you can see back in the expression of your talents.
And there are some who just are totally unaware of what their talents are, and it feels very hopeless and lost. And
Exactly.
Certainly a lot in my family, there's a sense of, you can see their talents, and it's, amazing, but they just never come to the surface and never actualise.
No.
and it's sort of sad to see
That's
that.
very sad.
And you know, they put all their energy into other things, but they're not living from their qualities.
Yeah.
So can you just say a few words about how to actually elicit talents from qualities?
So, you know, when you look when a person, you see the talents, but they're not expressed. There is an outer authority. There's an outer authority which is internalized, which is preventing. So, and in this there is a liberation, is in the work on yourself to kind of take responsibility over your own life. And this is happening as well. Because at a certain moment, you know, a person is so much pushed with his face against the wall, there is no way out anymore. And then, you know, either health explodes or the person himself explodes. Say, okay, you know, I'm going to do it my way. I cannot do it any other way anymore. You're brought back to what's essential to you. And what's essential to you, also what comes with it is a realization, you know, that of your own talents.
And that takes enormous courage to go past that restriction. You know, that
Yeah,
forbidding,
exactly.
which is internalized.
Exactly, and the fear which comes with it, you know, because if you go according to your own talents, you know, you're never able to build a living. You leave your responsibility for your children alone. The whole world will fall apart. You understand? It's like a betrayal to your family, to society, to everything. You cannot do this.
It doesn't have to be that dramatic. It can be 1,000 little choices from
Yeah.
the heart connection over the fear.
Yeah.
1,000 million little choices. Like, I want to write a poem. Oh no, people will say it's shit. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to write a poem. Little choices.
Yeah, that
Who
also
gives a
works.
shit what the world thinks?
Yeah.
Little choices.
Yeah, but first you have to come to who gives a shit what the world thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little choices.
This is the resilience, right?
Yeah, that's the resilience. And you can do it by little steps, little choices. Or often what you see happening in the lives of people is a big bang.
You wake up in a pool of vomit.
Yeah.
Byron Katie.
Yeah, exactly. The big bang, yeah.
Can I ask one thing? So, in this flow that you're describing of
Yeah.
freedom and unity, it's happened once we've let go of identification, like,
Yeah.
and then we're in this flow. So, just to try and express that, maybe I could use the example. So, and that's your experience. So, you're in the flow, and the book came, which is, like you said, contraction exploding into the field of sharing.
Yeah.
And then in this world, then there's a book, and then this I say, wow, Georgie, that's such a beautiful book.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then, in a way, there's a you, and how are you in freedom when, like, you don't, you probably don't go, oh, I didn't write the book, it just flowed. You know,
No, but it does
after-
feel like that
Yes,
often. It's
but
like,
I mean-
so how is it beautiful to you? Because I haven't got an absolute clue. And
Yeah.
I actually made an audio version of the I Am Here recently, and I'm reading it again since I wrote it for the first time ever. And it's like, who the fuck wrote this?
Yes.
You know, it's like a completely like, well, she's got a lot of authority, and like, wow, interesting. You know, it's almost like a note to self for later. That it's a completely.
That's
So there is this kind of stage in expressing qualities where you really have to let it go.
right.
It's like the book comes out and you put it on the water and it goes where it goes.
Yes.
But it's that to get to that moment of letting go is the difficult thing. So the sense of unworthiness, the sense of it having no value, the sense that nobody will want it, this feeling of being shamed for it, or that it could be rejected. And it always comes down to this kind of basic principle of service, which is like, first of all, you need to express it anyway. Even if nobody ever reads it and everybody just papers their walls with it, it doesn't matter. The need to express it is something in itself. And the second thing is even if it helps one single person, it's worthwhile. And that helps with that kind of self-judgment stuff, and it helps let go as well. And if not now, then maybe in 100 years it's like this. But the expression becomes primary. It's like having a shit. It's just got to happen. You know? It's like
And so that's very clear, because this one single person could also be yourself.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So then even if you fail, or the idea that you have, you never really fail.
No,
No.
you enjoyed it.
I've got a really,
You know-
really beautiful, really beautiful story about this in quality expression.
Yeah.
When we were first teaching, you know, I wasn't very popular at all. Everybody was like, "Oh, Bart, 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 Bart," and who the hell is this bitch that got him? You know, like, especially in Israel where women aren't really respected as authorities. And so we started giving free meditations, and people started to plan, like, to come in a WhatsApp group privately to know when he was going to be there in order to come or not come. Even though it was free, and if they did come and he wasn't there, it was like, oh God, it's you, and like they're doing me a favour, even though it was free. And so, but I kept on. I had such a passion at that time, and so much wanted to teach. And one time I came, and I was really inspired about this theme of being here in freedom. And Bart was away, and I sat there, and there was all the chairs, and I put the video and everything, and nobody came. And so I thought, well, fuck this, I'm going to express it anyway. So I put the video on and closed the door and began teaching what I was anyway going to teach. So a bunch of empty chairs, and I'm kind of nodding at the empty chairs, you know, like pausing for them to take it in. You know. And then I put it on YouTube to show everybody that it's happened anyway. So there's this video on YouTube called Being Here in Freedom, in which I give this talk to 20 empty chairs. And then Renata McNay from Conscious TV invited, she read I Am Here or got some recommendation, and she invited me to come and be interviewed. And she chose that video of all the thousands of videos. She chose that video as a kind of precursor to, like, look, Georgie's coming, she's going to be interviewed. Look at how amazing she is in this video. And I look at it and say, oh fuck, it's that one. It's me and all the empty chairs. So it reached 20,000 people. Right, and it was the best talk ever because there was no people interfering with the flow of inspiration. You know, it's like the chairs are good listeners. So that for me was such a kind of karmic lesson. Like, even if there is nobody there, anyway, express the quality.
Do you want us all to leave?
Sometimes that's how unconditional it needs to be, and that's how it needed to go for me because of the fear of rejection being so strong.
I wanted to say, which I think is relevant, but what always amazes me are individuals who can balance the quality of their inspiration with the conditions and the realization that are required to make it sort of happen. I think, you know, disparate examples like, you know, Bob Marley and Dickens. You know, Bob Marley is obviously a huge talent as a songwriter, but there's purity of inspiration there, but is also quite harsh with his band. You know, fires the crap people, makes them rehearse over and over and over until it gets here. And similarly, you know, Dickens has to write to order every month, and that kind of stuff. And then, in the foreword to one of his books, someone, you know, it's a bit harsh, but someone was saying, you know, the difference between a good writer and a great writer is a kind of a good writer sits there and waits for inspiration to come. You know, whereas a great writer said, right, you've got half an hour to write a poem out of a chair, you know, and he'll turn out something amazing. Just no matter what conditions you impose, you can still access that quality. Discuss.
That's the difference to be an apprentice and to be a master. You know, as an apprentice, you learn to trust your talent and you learn to surrender to it. If you're a master, you can at any moment surrender to this talent because you're not the authority, the talent is the authority, and you totally trust the talent by itself. It's, you know, in the beginning when we start to meditate, it's the same. You know, we go into stillness or into silence or into emptiness inside ourselves, or a combination of all, or deadness, which is also possible. So we move into that inside ourselves, or we choose one and kind of, you know, and work on it, kind of to move into it. And then it takes time to come there. You need to meditate, do a whole ritual, some exercises, and then it's there and we feel great. At a certain moment you realize, also what's in Georgi's book by the way, you realize that stillness is always there. It's always there, it's just waiting for you. And then it takes less as a second to move into stillness. It's just, you know, you visit it, it's there. It's always there. It's always been there. Silence as well, emptiness as well. It's always there. And that's when we master something. But when we master something, you know, it sometimes becomes less interesting. because Don had seen it, you know. A next quality comes forward often, or a next talent comes forward often. But this is part of, you know, what you're talking about, like Dickens is mastering it. There's a lot of writers who are not able to do this under pressure, because there's not a trust yet in the talent itself. It's not a trust in yourself. This is the mistake we're making. I can always write, doesn't do it. But the talent is always available.
And the unconditional expression, the unconditional means regardless of the conditions.
Yeah, and then
literally, so that means that even from a shoebox in the middle of the road, it can be expressed.
It will be
the
genius.
Conditions don't matter anymore.
It will be genius, because it's real. You understand, and everything he's written in his style is real for him. You understand, and that makes it. And then the Bob Marley, the other side, and that a lot of musicians who are genius, or the talent moves through genius, are there is a precision in it. It has to be very precise, exact. And so he's asking this precision from himself when he's singing and using his instrument. And the band becomes his instruments as well. So he's using, so they're apprentices. So the moment that they're one with their instrument, they have to go, because, you know, you cannot live like this with such a dictator. But they're really good teachers in a way, to come to the discipline, the precision, the openness, to become one with the instrument. The next step.
And there's the quality of
Yeah.
togetherness there, in the
Yeah,
whole kind
exactly.
of synergy. When you're talking about a band of people, there's
Exactly.
this incredible thing which is togetherness,
Yeah.
which has a power and a life of its own. So together they were mastering togetherness in a band. And
Yeah.
often that's where a band goes ape shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Because at a certain moment when this togetherness is totally there, then it needs to spread, it needs to explode,
To purify.
to purify again.